If you're anything like me, you probably heard the title Jupiter's Legacy and immediately cringed inside a little. I mean, seriously, Jupiter's Legacy? Really? It sounds like an Ayn Rand novel. Nobody would want to watch a film adaptation of that. Well, okay, maybe not nobody. There's probably a few people out there who would. And they vote. And yes, it does talk about politics and current events a little bit, but most of it is just to set the stage for things to come. It's not really trying to make a commentary, near as I can tell. At absolute most, what we basically have is yet another entry in the superhero genre. On one hand, I think I made it pretty clear where I stand on the superhero genre as a whole in the podcast I attempted a few months ago. On the other hand, let's be real, you didn't listen to that podcast. The statistics on YouTube show that nobody listened to that, and the statistics on Podbean don't exactly do any favors for it either, so I'm just going to give you a super abridged account right now and just say that I am so ungodly tired of the superhero genre right now. Like, I don't hate the superhero genre, far from it. In fact, I really don't hate anything about superheroes in general. It's just that there's so much stuff out there right now that's superhero-oriented, you know? It's getting to the point where I'm just tired of Marvel, and I'm tired of everybody else's interpretation of superheroes, because everybody's trying to copy Marvel, because what else are you gonna do? Copy DC? Yeah, fuck DC. I swear to God, if I hear another one of you people talk about the Snyder Cut, I am going to come to your house and I'm going to piss all over your sofa. That is how sick and tired I am of hearing about the Snyder Cut. I'm pretty sure I was talking about something else a minute ago. So yeah, I kind of went into Jupiter's Legacy, thinking maybe I'd just do my standard 3-episode set, call it a day, and I kind of wish I didn't go in with that mindset, because by the time I got to episode 3, I wanted to watch more and more and more, and I was bummed out when I ran out, because Jupiter's Legacy is actually a pretty good show, and I really loved it. The story of Jupiter's Legacy centers around the Utopian, aka royalty-free Superman. He was a hero from the Silver Age, where criminals never killed anybody, and the absolute worst thing you dealt with were bank robbers and mad scientists and maybe the occasional wizard. Unfortunately, he's having a lot of trouble coping with the modern age, where supervillains kill people now, and the bank robbers have been replaced with corporate CEOs, and I'm not saying Donald Trump, but I kind of get the feeling the show is saying Donald Trump, because everybody says Donald Trump nowadays. It's just sort of the song and dance we do now. Fortunately, as far as political commentary goes, the absolute worst thing they do is they have two of the old school heroes kind of sitting around and being all like, hey man, times have changed, you know? Do you believe that there are Nazis on the street? Well, absolutely not, but you know, they're not called Nazis anymore. They're actually... Yeah, I'm just going to stop you right there and just point out that just because they're not called Nazis doesn't change the fact they're Nazis. And that's about as deep as the commentary really got for the most part. The Utopian does have a couple of kids, and he's trying to raise them to be kind of heirs to the throne of the Utopian. You know, he's going to hand the mantle down to one of them, or maybe even both of them. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work out that way, because the son doesn't really seem to have a problem with killing villains, and the daughter is a dysfunctional drunk who's whining and rambling about how dad was never there for them. At first, sounds a lot like... If I'm being entirely honest, in terms of social commentary, this show isn't really bringing anything especially new to the table. I have seen plenty of other things, and a lot of them weren't even superhero themed for that matter, that introduced the concept that maybe pure good and pure evil are just concepts in our head we came up with to kind of just make life easier, and we don't process things like the 9,000 different layers and shades of gray that exist. You know, it's like, the show as a whole doesn't really do anything especially new with that concept, but I do appreciate the style, and I do appreciate that they at least tried, and what they came up with was not terrible. In fact, I'd say it's actually pretty good. The Utopian is a bit on the conservative side at times, but it's never in that obnoxious way where he's secretly the villain and we're supposed to hate him. At absolute worst, the Utopian is a product of his time, and perhaps deluded himself into thinking that the world was good and evil and there's no such thing as like anti-heroes, anti-villains, and justifiable murder to get rid of supervillains like Black Star, who's like this villain who's clearly too dangerous to keep alive, but we keep locking him up in maximum security prison anyway because we don't kill, because we're better than them. Even though he keeps breaking out and he keeps killing everybody else around him after he breaks out and keeps wreaking havoc, and it seems to be costing more to repair the damage than it would to just, you know, lethal injection, but what do I know? Honestly, I'm kind of running out of things to say pretty early on because that's kind of the problem when I find things that I like. I just want to talk about it so much, but I'm afraid of spoiling things or having things spoiled for me, and, you know, it's just, there's only so many times I can say, this thing is awesome, check it out, before it starts sounding repetitive and obnoxious. So I'm just going to be honest with you and say, this show is something I really enjoyed, and I highly recommend it. And overall, I give it 4 hats out of 4.